All right, welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive? Today we're tackling the chemistry of life.
Should be fascinating.
Yeah, I've got a ton of research and articles here.
Right.
And we're not just going to hit like the basic building blocks, you know?
Right.
We're going to look at how this stuff plays out in our everyday lives.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So think like what's really in those sports drinks that get athletes going? Or even how those enzymes in your laundry detergent are like munching away at stains.
It's incredible how these tiny molecules shape our world.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's mind-blowing. So our sources kick things off by like dividing everything into two big categories.
Okay.
Organic and inorganic compounds.
Makes sense.
Organic molecules, those are like the VIPs of the body, the ones running the show.
Right. And they're all about carbon.
Yeah, carbon. It's pretty special, huh?
It is. Carbon can bond with like up to 4 other atoms at once.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is. It makes it super versatile. Like imagine the ultimate Tinker Toy connector.
Okay, I can picture that.
It can build all these crazy complex structures. It's why we call carbon the backbone of life.
So it's not just about carbon being there, it's about how it connects and builds these molecules.
Exactly. And these carbon-based molecules, that's what we're talking about when we say organic molecules.
Sure.
Our sources really zero in on 4 main types: carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids.
Perfect. Let's break them down. Starting with carbs. Those are all about energy, right?
You got it. Carbohydrates are the fuel our cells use. The most basic form is glucose.
Glucose, yeah. Like a quick hit of energy for your cells.
Exactly. Think of those athletes using glucose gels. They're getting that immediate boost.
Oh, that makes sense. So is all that carb stuff created equal?
Well, not really. You've got simple carbs like glucose, and then you have the complex carbs like starch, how plants store energy.
Okay.
And glycogen, what animals like us store in our liver and muscles.
Gotcha. And then what about fiber? That's a carb too, right? But we can't really digest it.
That's cellulose. A complex carb makes up those tough cell walls in plants.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah. We humans, we don't have the right enzymes to break it down.
Makes sense.
But it's still super important for our gut health. Helps with digestion, you know.
So carbs can be fuel, storage, even building material like in plants.
Exactly.
Fascinating. Okay, now onto lipids. They get a lot of bad press, don't they?
Lipids or fats, yeah, they kind of have a PR problem.
Right.
But they're essential. We need them. They're awesome for storing energy. Plus, they make up those membranes that surround all our cells.
Oh, we didn't realize that.
Yeah, and they even act as signaling molecules, helping cells communicate.
Wow. So it's more nuanced than just all fats are bad.
For sure.
How do we tell the good fats from the not so good ones?
Well, it all comes down to their chemical structure. Unsaturated fats, like in olive oil, they have these double bonds in their carbon chains.
Okay.
Saturated fats, like in butter, only have single bonds. And those double bonds, they change the shape of the molecule and how it interacts with us.
So it's not just good versus bad. It's understanding the chemistry and how it impacts our health.
Exactly.
What about cholesterol? That's another one that gets a lot of attention.
It does. Cholesterol is super important. Another type of lipid. Crucial for our cell membranes and making hormones.
Okay.
But, you know, too much of it, especially the LDL kind, that can increase your risk of heart disease.
So lipids are more than just their reputation.
Right. They're complex and essential.
All right, let's move on to proteins. They're often called the workhorses of the cell. Why is that?
Proteins are like the ultimate multitaskers. They do so much in the body.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Providing structure, transporting molecules, even speeding up reactions. And they're all built from amino acids.
Amino acids.
Yeah.
Like the stuff listed on protein powder labels.
Exactly. There are 20 different types. They link together in these chains to make proteins. And the order they link up in, that determines what the protein does.
Oh, interesting. So the order matters. Like a code almost.
Yeah, you could say that. The sequence determines how the protein folds into this unique 3D shape. And that shape is what gives it its function.
Wow. Now, there's one type of protein I've always been fascinated by. Enzymes. They're the ones that speed up reactions, right?
Yeah, that's right. They're like biological catalysts. They make reactions happen way faster, but they don't get used up in the process.
That's so cool. But how do they know which reactions to speed up?
It's all about shape. Each enzyme has this special spot, an active site.
Okay.
It's like a little pocket, perfectly shaped to bind to a specific molecule. We call that the substrate.
A perfect fit.
Yeah, it's often described as a lock and key model.
So the enzyme is the lock and the substrate is the key.
Exactly. And this lock and key thing, that's how enzymes are so specific. Only the right substrate can fit in.
That's amazing. And that specificity, that's how our bodies control all these crazy chemical reactions, right?
Right. It's amazing. And remember, temperature and pH can affect how well enzymes work.
Oh, yeah, I remember that from school. It's all about balance.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. Enzymes are sensitive. They have optimal conditions. Most of ours work best around 37 degrees Celsius, our body temperature, and at a neutral pH.
Makes sense, keeping everything running smoothly. But I heard that enzymes have uses outside our bodies too, right?
Definitely. Think about your laundry detergent.
Oh, okay.
Many have enzymes specifically to break down those tough protein-based stains like blood or grass.
Wow.
And those enzymes, they work best at the temperature of your washing machine.
It's like everyday chemistry.
Exactly. A great example of how understanding these molecules leads to practical solutions.
Awesome. So we've hit carbs, lipids, proteins. What about nucleic acids? They sound pretty important.
Oh, they are. They're the information molecule.
Information.
Yep. Two main types, DNA and RNA.
DNA, the famous double helix. That's our genetic code, right?
That's it. DNA, or deoxyribonucleic acid, it's like the blueprint for building you. This long, double-stranded molecule, coiled up in that iconic helix shape, contains our genes, the things that determine our traits.
That's amazing. So what about RNA? What's its role?
RNA, ribonucleic acid, is kind of like the messenger. It carries genetic information from the DNA to ribosomes.
Ribosomes.
Yeah, those are like the protein factories of the cell. RNA helps turn the DNA instructions into proteins.
So DNA is the blueprint, and RNA makes it a reality.
Exactly. A fantastic partnership. It's at the heart of how life works.
This is all so complex.
Yeah.
It's amazing how it works so seamlessly most of the
Oh,
time.
no, right? It's mind-blowing.
Before we jump to inorganic compounds, there's one more group. Vitamins, right?
You got it. Gotta have those.
Those are the things we get from food to stay healthy.
They are organic compounds. We need them in small amounts. They're like helpers involved in tons of processes.
Okay. Can you give me some examples?
Sure. Vitamin A, that's important for vision. The B vitamins, they help with energy. Vitamin C is an antioxidant, helps us make collagen.
Collagen for our skin.
Yep, and connective tissue. Then you have vitamin D, important for strong bones, and vitamin E, another antioxidant.
Oh, right. I remember learning about deficiency diseases like scurvy. Isn't that from a lack of vitamin C?
Exactly. It was a big problem for sailors back in the day. No fresh fruits or veggies on those long voyages.
Wow. So getting enough vitamins is crucial.
Definitely prevents those kinds of diseases.
Makes sense. Got to get a variety from our diet. Okay, so we've covered this fascinating world of organic molecules. What about inorganic compounds? Those matter too, right?
Absolutely. They might not be as flashy, but they're essential supporting players.
Like what? What are some examples?
Well, the most abundant one, and probably the most important, water. It's everywhere in our bodies, involved in so many processes.
Water, the elixir of life. I know it keeps us hydrated. What else does it do?
Oh, so much. Water is an amazing solvent. It dissolves a ton of substances like salts, sugars, and other things called polar molecules.
Polar molecule.
Yeah, those are molecules where the electrons aren't shared equally.
Okay.
It creates these areas of like partial positive and negative charge, kind of like tiny magnets.
Huh. Interesting.
And water is polar, so it can dissolve tons of stuff. That's how it transports nutrients and waste products in our bodies. Think of it like a cellular highway system.
So water is moving things around inside us.
Exactly. And water is great at regulating temperature, too. Takes a lot of energy to change its temperature. So it helps us from getting too hot or too cold.
That's vital.
It is. And water is also the stage for a bunch of biochemical reactions. Lots of the reactions that are essential for life just happen in water.
Wow. So water really is crucial.
Totally.
Okay. What other inorganic compounds are important for life?
Minerals.
Yeah.
We need them for all sorts of functions.
Like calcium for strong bones, right?
Yeah.
Any others we should know about?
Oh, yeah, tons. We need different minerals in different amounts.
Oh, yeah?
The macro minerals, those we need in bigger amounts.
Makes sense.
So besides calcium, we've got sodium and potassium. Those are vital for our nerves and fluids. Phosphorus, super important for energy and DNA. Magnesium for enzymes and muscles. Chlorine for fluid balance and digestion. And sulfur, that's found in some amino acids.
Wow. That's a lot of minerals.
It is, and those are just the ones we need a lot of.
There's more.
Yep. We have trace minerals too. We need those in smaller amounts.
Like what?
Well, iron is a classic example. Super important for red blood cells to carry oxygen. Not enough iron. You can get anemia, makes you tired and weak.
That's why iron is so important. What other trace minerals are out there?
We've got iodine, that's needed to make thyroid hormone. Zinc, which is important for our immune system and helps a lot of enzymes. copper, involved in energy production, manganese, which is part of some antioxidant enzymes, and selenium, also an antioxidant and helps with thyroid function.
It's amazing how even tiny amounts of these trace elements can have such big roles.
Right. It really shows how everything in our body is connected, even at the smallest level.
Absolutely. So we've covered a lot of ground already.
We have, from carbon to water.
And all those amazing molecules in between.
Incredible, right.
It is, but there's still more to explore
Oh, definitely.
in the fascinating world of the chemistry of life.
Stay tuned.
It's incredible how our bodies use all these different minerals, even in tiny amounts. Our source material mentions hydrolysis and dehydration synthesis. What are those?
Those are two key processes where water plays a big role. Remember how we were saying water's such a great solvent?
Yeah, like that cellular highway, moving stuff around.
Exactly. So hydrolysis, it's like breaking a big molecule into smaller parts. By adding water, think of it like splitting a log with a powerful jet of water.
Whoa, okay.
Kind of like how our bodies digest food, breaking down those large molecules into smaller pieces we can absorb.
So hydrolysis is like a demolition crew, using water to break things apart.
Exactly. Dehydration synthesis, that's the opposite. It's building something up. By removing water, think of two pieces of wood being glued together. The glue dries, forming a strong bond. That's how our bodies create those larger molecules from smaller units.
Okay, got it. So hydrolysis breaks down and dehydration synthesis builds things up, both using water. Wow, water really is essential. We were talking about iron deficiency earlier, leading to anemia. How does that actually work?
Well, remember how iron is super important for hemoglobin, that protein in red blood cells?
The one that carries oxygen all over the body? Yeah.
Right. Hemoglobin, it's like those tiny delivery trucks carrying precious cargo.
I love that analogy.
So if you don't have enough iron, your body can't make enough hemoglobin. And without enough of those trucks, our red blood cells can't carry enough oxygen to our tissues and organs.
Oh, I see. So it's like a shortage of delivery trucks, causing a traffic jam of oxygen.
Yeah, you could think of it that way. And iron deficiency, it's a big deal worldwide, especially for women and kids, and anyone who might not get enough iron in their diet.
It's amazing how such a tiny element can have such a huge impact on our health.
It really shows you how balanced our bodies need to be.
Yeah.
Even small deficiencies can have big consequences.
We also talked about iodine deficiency
Ah.
and goiter. What's going on there?
So, iodine is essential for making thyroid hormone, which controls our metabolism, growth, all that. But if you don't get enough iodine, your thyroid gland has to work overtime to make those hormones. It can actually get bigger, forming a goiter, a swelling in the neck.
Oh, wow. So it's like the thyroid is trying to make up for the lack of iodine by working harder and harder, and it just ends up getting bigger.
That's a great way to put it. This can lead to hypothyroidism, which means the thyroid isn't producing enough hormones. So you can feel tired, gain weight, have other problems.
Yikes. Getting enough iodine is clearly important.
It is, but luckily it's mostly preventable. Iodized salt is one way to get enough. And lots of foods naturally contain iodine: seafood, dairy, some fruits and veggies.
Good to know. It's fascinating how these little trace minerals play such big roles. Are there any other connections scientists are still figuring out?
Oh, tons. The chemistry of life. It's incredibly complex. Researchers are always making new discoveries, finding new connections, and figuring out how to use this knowledge.
It's like we're constantly learning more and more about this incredible machinery of life. And with every discovery, new possibilities open up.
Exactly. It's an amazing field to be in. Always something new to learn.
We've talked about eating a balanced diet. But how do all these molecules we've been discussing actually get into our bodies?
It all starts with digestion.
Right. Breaking down those big food molecules
Yeah.
into smaller ones our bodies can use.
Exactly. And remember, our enzyme friends, they're the stars of the show here. We have different enzymes that are specialized to break down different types of molecules.
Oh, okay.
Like amylase breaks down starches in our saliva and small intestine, and proteases. They break down proteins in the stomach and small intestine.
It's like having a team of tiny demolition experts. Each one knows exactly how to dismantle a specific type of material.
Love that analogy. Once those big molecules are broken down into smaller pieces, they can get absorbed through the lining of our small intestine and enter the bloodstream.
So it's like a network of tiny pipelines, transporting all those nutrients all over the body.
You got it. And from there, those molecules are used for everything, building new cells, repairing tissues, providing energy, all those things that keep us going.
It's mind-boggling to think about all those trillions of little interactions happening inside us every second,
Yeah.
all working together perfectly.
I know, right? It really is like a perfectly orchestrated symphony of molecules.
What about the waste? What happens to all the stuff our bodies don't need?
Our bodies are really good at taking out the trash, the liver. It's amazing at detoxifying things. And our kidneys, they filter waste products from the blood, which we get rid of in urine.
So it's like our bodies are sophisticated recycling plants, breaking down what we need
Yeah.
and getting rid of the rest.
Exactly. And this whole process of digestion, absorption, and waste removal, it's key for keeping everything in balance.
So it's not just what we eat, it's how our bodies use it.
Absolutely. It's a complex system,
Yeah.
and it all works together to determine our health.
We've been talking about things at a really small scale, like molecules and stuff. How does all this chemistry actually translate into the larger structures of our bodies? Of our organs and tissues?
That's where things get even more interesting. Remember those amino acids? The building blocks of proteins.
Right, like those tiny Legos of life.
Well, those proteins, they don't just float around on their own. They interact with each other and connect with other molecules to form bigger structures, like tissues and organs.
So it's kind of like building a house.
Yeah.
You start with individual bricks, then you add mortar to connect them, you build walls, and eventually a whole house.
Perfect analogy. And just like a house needs different materials, bricks, wood, glass, wiring, our bodies need different types of tissues to do different things.
Like what? What are some examples of these different tissues?
Well, we have muscle tissue for movement, nervous tissue to send signals throughout the body, connective tissue for support and structure, and epithelial tissue, which lines our organs and body cavities.
And each of these tissues is made up of specific types of cells.
Exactly. And those cells, in turn, are made up of all those molecules we've been talking about. Carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids, all working together in perfect harmony.
Wow, it's incredible how all the complexity of our bodies comes from these basic building blocks.
It really is a testament to the brilliance of nature. And it highlights how interconnected all living things are. We're all made from the same basic stuff, just arranged in different ways.
That brings us back to that question of artificial life. If we understand all the pieces and how they fit together, could we, create life from scratch?
That's a question that's been around for a long, long time. Scientists and philosophers have been thinking about it for ages.
And one that we probably won't have a definite answer to for a while.
It's a great question to think about, though. It really gets to the heart of what life is all about.
Speaking of thinking about things, our source material mentions some real-world applications of all this chemistry. We talked about enzymes in laundry detergent. What are some other examples?
Oh, so many. For example, the food industry. They use enzymes to make cheese, bread, even beer.
No way.
It's true. And the pharmaceutical industry. They use enzymes to develop new drugs and therapies. And in agriculture, enzymes are used to improve crop yields and even make biofuels.
So understanding the chemistry of life isn't just about, textbooks and theories. It's actually having a real impact on our world.
For sure. And as we learn more, we can expect even more cool applications to pop up.
It's such an exciting time for science. It's amazing to see this knowledge being used in the real world. But before we go, I want to bring it back to our listeners. Why should they care about all these molecules and reactions?
That's a great question. Understanding the chemistry of life, it's not just about, memorizing facts for a test.
Right.
It's about understanding ourselves, how our bodies work at the most basic level.
So it's about empowering ourselves with knowledge to make better decisions.
Exactly. When you understand how your body functions, down to those tiny molecules, you can make smarter choices about your health.
Makes sense.
How food affects us, why exercise is important, even how diseases develop.
It's about taking control of our well-being. One thing that really blew my mind from all this research was just how enzymes work. Yeah. It's like magic, speeding up those reactions without being used up themselves.
I know. It's pretty remarkable. And this whole concept of catalysis is not just limited to our bodies either.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's used in tons of industrial processes, making food, medicine, even new materials.
Wow. So this knowledge isn't just about biology. It's impacting technology and innovation in all these different fields.
Absolutely. Nature has been perfecting these processes for, billions of years, so we've got a lot to learn from it.
This deep dive has really highlighted how interconnected everything is, from the tiniest atom to the largest organism. It's all linked together through this web of chemical reactions.
It is. It's a humbling thought.
Yeah.
And it makes you realize the importance of balance and harmony,
Right.
both within our bodies and in our relationship with the planet.
It's like that butterfly effect. Even small changes can ripple out and affect the whole system.
Exactly. Which brings me to a final thought for our listeners. We spent all this time exploring this incredible chemistry of life. But what does it actually mean to be alive?
Ooh, that's a big one.
It is. Is it just about having the right molecules arranged in the right way?
Right.
Or is there something more, something beyond just the physical?
That's a question that's been debated for ages.
I know, right? And there might not be a simple answer, but it's a question worth asking, understanding the chemistry. That's just the first step. The real adventure lies in exploring those bigger questions about consciousness and purpose and what it really means to be alive.
Wow, what a thought to leave us with. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey into the chemistry of life. We hope you learned something new and interesting, and we'll see you on our next deep dive.